everybody, and welcome to this brand new spoiler review for She-Hulk. We're going to talk about episode 6 here from the
Geek Buddies.
Hey!
Yeah.
We're back at it again. Have some fun talking about She-Hulk here. This is the wedding episode. The episode is called Just Jen. They did a really funny graphic, Just Jen, attorney at law. Basically, once again, Shannon, we've got Jen Walters confronting her perception of being She-Hulk versus accepting being She-Hulk, what it all means. A much more softer civil war than certainly Bruce Banner has had with himself over the Hulk. And of course, he's now Professor Hulk on his way to Sakaar, or probably has landed at Sakaar by now. And who knows what's going on there. But certainly the furthering of that, we get Titania coming back here yet again to get her butt kicked. And then Mr. Immortal shows up as well, which is a fun little, for all you Veep fans, you must have enjoyed having him come back and play, or come into the MCU here, playing Mr. Immortal. For all you West Coast Avengers fans, I'm sure you were excited to see Mr. Immortal showing up, which is really fun. And for all you Great Lakes Avengers fans, all 10 of you, it must have been pretty cool to see him as well. Anyway, so we're going to get into all of that. Let's introduce ourselves. I'm the Outlaw John Rocha, writer, producer, and host here on the Geek Buddies.
And this is Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer and a television actor, where the second season of Strawberry Shortcake, Barry in the Big City, is on Netflix now.
Absolutely. And Mike Vogel is in Palm Springs. So, listen, the man is busy. He's doing a bunch of things, running a bunch of shows. It's not always easy to get him for all the reviews. So, we got to pick and choose where we can. So, unfortunately, he's not joining us for this review, but he will be back next week, and we'll figure it all out from there. Because if you haven't noticed, the Geek Buddies have been churning out a crap ton of content since I got back from COVID. And so it's just a lot of time that we're spending doing these reviews, and not everyone can be there because of schedules and what have you. So bear with us and enjoy our breakdown of episode 6. So thanks so much for joining us. And thanks to Carbon Health, who powers and sponsors us here on the Geek Buddies and the Outlaw Nation. Exactly. Shannon pointing to it right now. Go to carbonhealth.com. So you have any questions about your health care, any questions or concerns or needs you need to deal with your health, or a partner's health, or a friend's health, or family member's health, it is there. They are there to help you out. They're there to set up plans for you that work for you personally as well. They believe in uplifting everybody to live as healthy of a lifestyle as possible and to go at your own pace about how to put that in motion. Also, if you're on the go and you've got healthcare questions or concerns or needs, make sure you download the app as well for Carbon Health, so you can see if there's a Carbon Health location near you. They've got 100+ locations all over the country, 80+ locations in California alone. They got COVID testing, they got urgent care, they've got inpatient health clinic stuff, and they've got virtual care as well. It's all available for you at carbonhealth.com. All right. So we're going to jump into this episode 6, Just Jen. We're going to break it down into the A storyline and the B storyline. So that's basically how we're going to do things. So I'm going to run down what happened in the A storyline, and we're going to discuss it all here on the show. Shannon, are you ready?
I am ready, Johnny.
Well, actually, first, let's do what we always do. Overall, Shannon, thoughts on this episode?
I enjoyed it. The further we get down the road, the more apparent is look, this show is not going to be for everybody. And for the folks that don't like it, I'm like, I get it. I get it. This is a very specific take on the MCU. This is very lighthearted. It doesn't seem, at this point, for the most part, with the exception of Jen, it doesn't seem like there are any sort of long-term outstanding stakes or consequences from what's happening. Yeah. This is just a very kind of day in the life of a lawyer who also happens to have superpowers. And and I ain't mad at it. I mean, this is just a nice, easy show to watch for me. Tatiana Maslany continues to do great work. Yeah. I know I'm a big fan of JAMEELA JAMIL. I think she is so funny in this. I know that opinion may not be shared with everyone on screen right now, but I'm really enjoying her.
Who knows?
So yeah, I mean, I continue to enjoy RENEE ELISE GOLDSBERRY and Ginger Gonzaga. Sure. I just think it's a fun show. Now, at the end of the 9-10 episode season, where will it rank on my Disney Plus series? Probably kind of right in the middle. I was not a fan of Moon Knight. I am enjoying this way more than Moon Knight, partially because I think it's funny, but also it is a shorter episode, so you can kind of get in and get out. But do I think it is as awesome as WandaVision or Hawkeye? No, this is just good, harmless fun.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I'm in the middle on this show because I really enjoy every actress that's on the show for the most part, except for Jameela Jamil so far, though I might surprise you today. I do enjoy, as you said, Tatiana Maslany, Ginger Gonzaga, Renee Elise Goldsberry. Love what they're doing, love what they're creating. Do I think the writing sometimes lets them down? Yes. Do I think the humor doesn't 100% work for me most of the time? Like, I can't even remember the last time I laughed out loud when I watched an episode of She-Hulk. It might be in the first 2 episodes because I really like those first 2 episodes. And then I feel like we've gotten into this weird kind of, if it's not your sense of humor, it's really not going to work for you. Look, I don't like Clue. I don't like The Goonies. There's certain films I just don't 100% gravitate to because I just don't get like Three Amigos. I don't get the humor. I don't know why people love it. So it's all subjective, right? So obviously anybody who likes the show, I'm not going to begrudge you liking the show. There's, we got to enjoy life. And if you enjoy a show, God love you. Just for me personally, it doesn't 100% work. But what keeps me coming back every week is Tatiana Maslany, is Ginger Gonzaga, is Renee Elise Goldsberry, is the cast of this show, because I really enjoy what they're doing, except for Chad. I don't know. I can't be on board with Chad. Incredible, Mr. Incredible. Shout out to you, Chad. But it's just not. Yeah.
We found out why his name is Chad. It's like, oh, because you came up with that joke.
Yeah,
that's
right,
why
exactly.
his name is Chad.
The Incredible Hulk. There you go. But yeah, I mean, but this episode was really interesting, and this episode is a fascinating episode because obviously it's a wedding episode, and they do break the fourth wall here when Jen's, and I think it's the only time she breaks, or maybe twice. I think she broke 2 or 3 more times she breaks the fourth wall. But this is the near the beginning, in the first scene, near the beginning rather, is where she breaks the fourth wall and talks about how it's inconvenient for this episode to be at this time. And it's inconvenient because people want to see Daredevil, because you just teased Daredevil in the last episode, and now you're delaying that. And I think they're getting a little bit of guff online now, or a large amount of guff for teasing Daredevil, and he still hasn't shown up. And I know Charlie Cox has said he's only in 1 episode, but they made a big deal of teasing him. So I think you're getting some fans who are getting upset about the dragging out of Daredevil when we've seen Titania 3 times already. We haven't seen Daredevil once, just teased throughout. So I think there's some elements of it that are certainly issues as I watch this. And to me, breezy, I want stakes. And so I don't know if I 100% like that it's breezy, but we'll see what I feel about the episode and what Shannon feels about the episode as we go along. So let's jump into it. Shannon, let's start with the storyline, which is obviously Jen's storyline here. She gets a box she gets a present as a box here. She opens it up, and it's her being asked to be the bridesmaid for Lulu, her friend from high school. And Nikki wants to see the super suit. She says she's not going to wear it. She says she doesn't know if she's never going to wear it, really. But she pulls out the dress that the fashion designer made for her. Is it Jerome? Is that the fashion designer? I forget the fashion designer name, but he made the dress.
Luke Jacobson.
Luke Jacobson, who made the design for her. So she shows the dress. Pretty cool stuff. We find out that Chet is DJing the wedding. I want to put that, I might get in trouble here for this, but Tatiana Maslany's legs look strong. So clearly, whatever you say about the CGI of what she looks like as a She-Hulk, she's been working out, and you can tell physically when you're looking at that scene, her legs look strong. So clearly she is the basis, or she has some things coming up maybe where she's going to be not necessarily fully Hulk the whole time. And certainly that happens later on the episode when she gets initially punched by Titania. All right. So this is a self-contained episode. As I said, she says it's an inconvenient time. She shows up at Lulu's wedding here wearing her dress, and she looks badass, and she steps out. They're playing the music, and everybody loves her except for Lulu, who is not happy, thinks she's going to take attention away from her. We find out that her groomsman is Jonathan. Lulu asks how Jen is doing, and she only wants to know who Jen is dating, not how well Jen's life is going. And she shames her that, you'll find somebody someday. And then she runs off to solve a debate between who is Team Edward and who is Team Jacob, which makes me think, A, Twilight is canon, and B, Robert Pattinson is canon in the MCU all of a sudden. So I don't know how they can get away with that, but it's really funny. Then Titania shows up as a date of one of the friends of the groom. Jen thinks that Titania is there to fuck with her. Titania and Lulu Lulu knows Titania, respects Titania, and they both think Jen is making too much of it. Then Hot Josh shows up while Jen is outside. He is on the groom side. He talks about how it all kind of blends together, is what he said, and he doesn't have a +1. And then Lulu comes out to kind of what do they call it for the female side? On the male side, it's cock block. I don't know what it is on the female side, but she asks Jen to clean up and then drags Josh away from her because Lulu is alienating half the staff. And then later on, we see Jen show up at the wedding, and Heather. If you have the subtitles turned on, or maybe if you're a keen listener, Heather says that she used to do they're going to get Jen to iron the shirts, and that she used to get Jen to do jobs like this all the time. So clearly, there's some history there with Heather, who was the first to greet her, by the way, as soon as she showed up. Chad is terrible. He's a DJ. He's goofy little SOB. Then we find out that it's a cash part. Jen pays for the drinks, dances to Walking on Broken Glass from Annie Lennox, one of the great songs from Annie Lennox. Jen is drunk, calls Bruce, leaves him this voicemail that has been a few weeks, months, or whatever, calls him a ding dong. Josh shows up again, and she tells Josh drunkenly that she's actually doing good. She's happy with her life and that she is strong. And then she goes to throw up. Titania starts a fight with her. She says it's not fun unless she's She-Hulk. And she also says, this is a very interesting line, Shannon. You do not get to ruin everything for me for something you don't even want or deserve. Jen initially can't turn, then turns, and then it's all like Donkey Kong to the electric boogie. Titania sees people taking pictures of her, so she runs at She-Hulk after she's been kind of punched away by She-Hulk or kicked by She-Hulk. And she slips on some ice, and her veneers are damaged, and she flips out. Then Lulu comes in drunk and cries and says that she loves She-Hulk all of a sudden. Isn't Lulu the same person who just said she didn't want She-Hulk up to the stage? Now she's a fan? I'm so confused. Makes a huge boobs joke. By the way, shout out to Patty Harrison, who was great. Loved her in Made for Love, and she's great in this role here. We cut to Josh and Jen having fries, and then morphs into a computer screen, and we see the message, is the next phase of the plan ready to go? Dash Hulk King. We see a new and improved syringe being put in a case. And then in the end credits, we see Chet and Lulu making out, Jen and Nikki having a drink, Jen and Hollywood Boulevard taking pictures, and Jen at the desk working on some cases with a folder that has the Shield logo on it. So interesting stuff here for Jen. Interesting journey. Talk to me about the beats here throughout the episode. Shannon, what did you feel about how this journey they took Jen on in this episode?
I mean, I think the whole conceit of a wedding episode is really fun. And like, I do like Tatiana Maslany's takes to camera when she breaks the fourth wall. I wish they were a little stronger. Again, it has nothing to do with Tatiana Maslany. It's this is the material she's being given. I think because across the board, I mean, I do agree with you. The jokes are not the strongest. Like, you want... You have a great IP with a phenomenal cast in the biggest franchise, in cinema history at pretty much at this point. You just want the material to support that, and it just doesn't always. The Team Edward, Team Jacob, I was like, that's really like that's the joke we're going with. Okay,
2000. That's 2000.
It's a little dated. But Tatiana Maslany's take to camera, where she's like, "Oh, if you think this is an inconvenient wedding episode, you're right, because weddings are always inconvenient." I was like, "Solid joke. That was it. That was a good joke. I like that one."
Because the wedding's happening on a Thursday. Yeah.
Well, and you do it on a weekday because it's a cheaper rate. As someone who just threw a wedding party, that we definitely, my wife and I definitely had conversations like, do we do this on a Tuesday? But I thought the conceit was all good. Like, it makes sense that Nikki's just kind of like, hey, let me see the super suit. Let me see the super suit. It's like, I'm not going to show you that. I'm going to show you the dress.
Right.
And it was funny because, again, I don't have the best eye for fashion. I thought She-Hulk looked great in the dress. I'm like, I thought it would be a little, I don't know. I thought it would be a little flashier, but it's like, oh, okay. So this is a muted wedding look.
Yeah.
And the idea that Lulu, Patty Harrison, who I agree, she was also in the Hulu series Shrill with 80 Bryant.
Oh yeah, okay.
And I think that was the first time I saw Patty Harrison. Okay. And it's a supporting role. Like, she's a regular, but I mean, she is very, very funny. Like, she has a great deadpan.
Yeah.
The idea that she's like, I don't want you to She-Hulk out, makes sense. That it's like, the bride is very much, this is my day. I don't want anything taken away from that. And that's like good people.
Yeah.
That's like who are brides. Lulu does not seem like the coolest person.
No.
But then watching Titania get there, who again I think Jameela Jamil is so funny in this. I love her accent. I love her American accent.
I have to say I liked her in this episode. I think I'm starting to come around on what she's doing with this character. And so I kind of liked her in this episode. I like that Jen kind of turned the tables on her and said, "You're obsessed with me." That was a nice little switch. And so I'm starting to sense that there's a little more depth to Titania than we may have initially glimpsed in the first few episodes. So it's ironic that Jameela Jamil, who rages against these influencers who she thinks is unhealthy for women to follow, for in previous comments that she's made, is maybe giving some depth to this character that we didn't initially, or I didn't initially think was there. So yeah.
Well, I think she's having fun playing at what she has criticized in the past.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like she's sort of encapsulating, like, yes, these people are not good people. But when Jen, it's funny, like you don't, at least I'm not getting why, like, folks from the past, like, why does everybody shit on Jen?
Right.
Like I don't totally understand that.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like, okay, this is the background. Like this is her history with the with these other characters. You know, she was kind of the maybe the hanger on that they had do stuff. Yeah. Which again, like knowing who Jen is now, I mean, and again, that's the journey of of an individual. Yeah. Kind of like, I don't get that, but it's kind of like, okay, it works for the episode. Like you have to have Jen on her heels at all times.
It could just be, Shannon, it could be. And I think you make an excellent point, because that's been striking me in the face as I watch these episodes too, is why does everybody in her past treat her like shit? Because like she's clearly attractive, pretty, she's successful, she's a lawyer, she's accomplished. Why do these people, and she's She-Hulk, it's kind of mind-blowing how much people don't factor that in as a thing to be like impressed by. And I guess maybe somehow we've crossed that line in the Marvel universe where superheroes are so prevalent that it's not a big deal if your friend becomes one. But I still think it is. And I've watched all of these movies. So I think it's a weird way to approach things, because you would imagine, you know, it would be a big deal that she's a She-Hulk. It would change people's perception about her, but they still have her ironing the fucking shirts for the groomsmen who are playing Mario Kart. It just is so odd. Yeah.
I mean, to me, that makes sense, because the She-Hulk thing is new. Like this is, and this sort of revelation, like this doesn't necessarily invalidate the history that these people have with her. Right. So like when she arrives, that sort of, it's like a movie star showing up, like the fact that they're all taking pictures, and then when she goes back to what they knew, it's not as impressive, because what they knew, Jen, she's still Jen. When she's She-Hulk, then it's like they're looking at her as two different individuals, much the way that the Dates did. Like the Dates were not impressed with Jen, but they were really, really impressed with She-Hulk.
I mean, she's just Jen. She's just Jen,
I guess. When we meet Josh, who is a newer actor, I don't recognize that guy, but very, very charming individual. I love the fact that he was like, "Hey, so I don't know how to say this," and she assumes he's called dibs on this bench, and she's like, "Yeah, let me get out of your way."
Yeah,
like that's a really funny introduction. As soon as they start talking, I'm like, I really hope Josh is a good guy, and not like he's a bad dude like the people she went on dates with. I'm like, I hope he is not a villain.
I've seen. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. Go ahead.
I've seen so many reviews where the reviewers are like, "Please don't break Jen's heart. Please don't hurt Jen." So many people are concerned with this character of Jen Walters, and I think because they love Tatiana Maslany's portrayal of this role, and they've seen her, as you said, Shannon, very well, be pretty much beaten up verbally or emotionally by the people from her past. So, and having her go through that embarrassing thing, having those Tinder dates or Bumble dates, whatever, show up on the stand and say how much they weren't impressed by Jen, but they were impressed by She-Hulk. Like she's been through a lot of the emotional ringer here in this whole situation. Right. Remember, coming out of the Hulk Island, she thought she was just going to rule the fucking roost. And it's been one smack in the face after another, losing the job, having to work for Holloway, having to be the She-Hulk the whole time, dealing with Abomination, all the stuff that went on with Lucas, is that his name? The young lawyer guy, and all the stuff that's gone on with her trying to kind of figure it out, the stuff with Wong, all of this has just been kind of piling on top of itself. So people really want Jen to have just one person in her life come into her life and like her for who she is. But
well, and again, like the emotional damage, I'm like, okay, clearly you know how to handle that. It's Josh being some sort of like bad guy,
yeah,
like a villain. That's my first thing is like, oh, does he work for John Bass? Is he there, you know, trying to figure out a way to puncture her skin so he can get that blood? Maybe. That is immediately where my head went.
Of course. Yeah.
But then, you know, you find out her groomsman is a senior, very petite dog. Yeah. The whole scene was just as she's slowly getting drunk. I thought that was so funny, and just like watching her kind of like, you know what, I'm here. I'm gonna have a good time. Yeah. And she keeps throwing down cash after cash to you know, get inebriated. But then when Titania slugs her, go ahead.
Walking on Broken Glass is a song from Annie Lennox about dealing with the fact that your ex has moved on and you're going to their wedding. So it's a weird little, it's an awesome song. It's a weird little song. If you ever watch the music video, it's her trying to get John Malkovich back while he's getting married to someone else. And Hugh Laurie is trying to stop her from talking to John Malkovich the whole music video. It's a great music video and it's a fantastic song. So it seems perfect for her to be dancing that song as she's just like, no one else wants to talk to me or dance with me. So I'm gonna dance by myself, you know?
Well, and like the some of the parties that we went to at Comic-Con, I've heard stories, like I have not witnessed this, but how Tatiana Maslany at some of those Comic-Con parties is a delight.
Oh,
that people have been like, yep, she will go out there and dance by herself. She will, she will have a hot dog. She will have a beverage of her choice. She just goes out and has a good time. She does not care what anyone thinks. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. So like, as soon as I saw this scene, I was like, oh, that totally makes me think of like the actual stories I've heard about Tatiana Maslany. But then when Titania just, you know, sucker punches her.
Oh yeah, well, she's right after she throws up. Yeah,
like that got a verbal reaction from me. Like, ah! Like my wife, who was working at home that day, she was working in the kitchen, and she hears me, and she's like, "What are you watching?" I'm like, "She-Hulk, leave me alone."
Close the door.
Yeah, the whole back and forth of how JAMEELA JAMIL just wants to beat the crap out of her. She's like, but I can't do it to you. I have to do it to She-Hulk. You got to turn. Right. And this is another difference between Jen and Bruce. I mean, if you punch Bruce Banner, more than likely he's going to Hulk out right away. The fact that she didn't, that she has it so under control, almost to a fault, that when she's drunk, she's like, oh, crap, I forgot how to do it. But the moment she transforms and you get that, you know, that fight, and you see Titania actually was you know, holding her own. I mean, ultimately She-Hulk won, and, you know, Titania slipped on some ice and busted her mouth. But the whole scene was just such a blast. I do agree the beat with Lulu at the end where she's drunk, she's like, She-Hulk's at my wedding. I'm like, that's a little weird. I mean,
it made no fucking sense.
That doesn't totally make sense unless it's sort of like, okay, you know what, she's drunk, like she's you know, she's just about having a good time, and how many people are going to talk about her wedding forever because She-Hulk was there. It's like, okay, I'll go along with you. Like, it doesn't totally make sense to me. I feel like if I were to turn something like that in a script to Vogel, I would get noted out the butt. But it was overall, I thought Jen's story was a lot of fun. But then, you know, you get to the, I mean, it's not a tag sequence, but it's, you know, the last you know, moment where you see them, you know, coming up with this new sort of like drill like needle that they're going to use on She-Hulk. And the whole time I'm thinking, ever since Vogel said it, because at first I'm like, oh, well, this is John Bass's laboratory. I'm like, oh my gosh, is this the leader? Is this the leader? Is Samuel Stern's going to pop up? So from beginning to end, I really enjoyed it, though.
Yeah. Let's deal with the separate sections here as we deal with the Jen storyline real quick. So the Jonathan stuff, I think he's a bad guy. I think because
Josh.
Sorry, guys. Josh I think he's a bad guy because I mean the way they go from them having fries and then right into the computer screen, how do they know to monitor? How do they know where she is? How do they, all that? And I'm wondering if maybe Josh is the guy because they don't see them monitoring her when she's by herself dancing on the floor or when she's by herself sitting on the bench or wherever in these different places or even in her room or whatever. We see her with Josh, right? Josh,
Mhm.
and so they're having. So to me, that makes me think that Josh is there as kind of a connective tissue to that, and it's going to turn out to be someone else. And you're right; he's a new actor. He's only done like 3 or 4 other shows, one-off shows. So it's interesting to cast him in this role. Is this just a fun role where he's going to be interested in her as Jen Walters, which a lot of people will be championing, or is he going to eventually turn to be part of this intelligentsia or wherever group that is going after Jen's blood? So it's an interesting situation with this to just present because like nothing, they don't bump into each other or anything. He just kind of just walks up to her and she's immediately kind of into it. And then later when she's drunk, she's just like Joshinson, Josh. She's like totally into him. So I don't know if it's her being socially awkward or them doing some shortcuts in the writing that they're already kind of, or she's already kind of like crushing on him hard. And I know how weddings are. People hook up at weddings all the fucking time. I get it. Trust me. But it takes a little bit of conversation and time before you get to that point. It isn't just on the bench, like a minute of conversation, then all of a sudden it's crush time. You know, it was weird. So what do you think though? Do you think he's manufacturing this or do you think he's real? Like, what's your gut tell you?
Well, Lulu does know him. Like she does approach him and pulls him away. So there's that. But also Lulu knows Titania. Like are these people coming out of the woodwork because of her association with Jen Walters, with She-Hulk? Or is it just happenstance that Titania happens to be dating one of the groomsmen? We don't know how Lulu knows Josh. We just know that Josh was invited and didn't get a +1.
But
like
he was
Jen.
invited by the groom. So Lulu knows him, but through the groom. Remember, he said he's on the groom side.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know how much she actually knows him, but she does drag him away from Jen to help her after she's alienated half the staff.
Because I'm being mean to them.
Yeah, because she's treating like shit. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing with him. I don't know, you know. I mean, my inclination because of the show is that he's a bad guy, but he could be the nice dude amidst all the bad guys.
I mean, you hope that there would be one nice guy. I mean,
let's have a larger conversation about that, Shannon. Look, listen. We're analysts and we're discussing this, and yes, of course, we're 2 dudes, but almost every guy in this show is a bad guy except for Josh Segura, and even the fashion designer talks all kinds of shit. You know, he's kind of mean. So, but Josh could be the one good guy along with what? What'd you say? Did I say his name?
Pug.
Pug. Yeah, Pug. That's what I mean. Segura, Pug, and this guy.
I mean, even Ched's a little like, meh.
Ched's a bad guy. Well, Ched's an idiot. How about that? Ched's an idiot. So you're either an idiot or a bad guy. And that is becoming a little tedious for me. And look, I get it. On the female side, they've seen women portrayed as dumb or as foolish or as whatever to fit male writers writing and male directors. I totally get that. It's just when I'm watching a show like this, and remember, the Marvel fan base is predominantly male. It just seems odd that we're making all these guys be idiots, and you know, and
maybe, but
I don't know.
But it's same with the female characters as well. I mean, the only one who's really with her is Nikki. Like Mallory, maybe she is, maybe she isn't.
Right.
Outside of that, I mean, there's not a ton of supportive female characters.
I think you're making a great point. I hadn't thought about it. The balance is there, right? Because Lulu treats her like shit. Heather's treating her like shit. Some of the Titania is treating her like shit. A lot. So yeah, okay. So maybe just Jen's world is just full of men and women equally treating her like shit, and it's a shitty place to be. So God love her. It's interesting. Yeah. All right. I rescind my statement as we talk about it. It's a good point you bring up. Yeah. Sorry.
But it's, you know, I mean, you know, John Bass is coming back. We don't know who he is, but he's bad guy. Yeah. Is he working for the leader? Is he sort of our big bad? Yeah. I don't know. But I mean, to the Daredevil of it, just because I'm remembering what you had said, I don't know. Was using him in the marketing a mistake? Like, we sort of presumed that he was going to show up just because of the fact that Matt Murdock is a lawyer.
Yeah.
If you did not know, if you did not have confirmation that Daredevil was going to be in the show, that moment that you see that open box and you see those horns, you know, I mean, you know, TV's not movies. Like in a movie theater, that happens. You see that in a post-credit sequence in a Marvel movie. You're night the movie comes out, sold out house, you know, that rips the roof off the place.
Of course.
Now with TV, I mean, it's like that was such a big moment, especially for people that are Marvel Comics fans. I mean, you have to remember, like, the MCU has introduced a lot of people to this that, you know, didn't really know these characters.
Right.
So because now it's like everyone just keeps waiting for Daredevil. Everyone keeps waiting for Daredevil in the She-Hulk show. Like, if they'd not used him, like, I think every week since we saw that helmet, we just like, where's Daredevil? Where's Daredevil? Where's Daredevil? Or not even since we saw the helmet, but since we saw the trailer for the second half.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Like, I don't know if I would have done that in the marketing, because I don't feel like his presence was going to, especially now. I mean, I don't know if his presence got that many more eyes on the show.
Right.
And at this point, I feel like the people that are just tuning in to see Daredevil are getting pissed off.
And they're on social media getting pissed off. Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. But, I mean, by the time Charlie Cox does have his episode, maybe that episode is so good that it's like, oh, it was total worth it. You know, we'll find
it's like
out.
a 45-minute episode or something, and it's totally worth it. Yeah, that's certainly possible. And it's a valid point you bring up. Did they make a mistake in the marketing of this? Maybe they didn't think people would watch unless we tease Daredevil. It's a bit of a trick. And I think when you do that and you don't bring Daredevil out, fans turn and fans get really upset. So, and you can try to, bash the fans for being upset, but I think that's unfair. You teased it. So you have to take responsibility of how that comes to be. You know what I'm saying? So that is your responsibility as a creator to do that. So that's a fair point. I understand why people are mad. So I don't fault them for being mad at all. Let's see. Is there anything more? This is funny. Real quick. Is Jonathan, as we see here, is Jonathan possibly Jonathan the Unstoppable, which was this dog that was rescued from a lab where he was being experimented on and was often mistaken for a dangerous dog rather than a Wolverine. So I saw some people speculating that could that be fun? That could be funny, right? I mean,
this is the first time I've heard about the character Jonathan the Unstoppable. So, I mean, sure. Maybe. I don't know if we're going to see Lulu again after this episode.
Yeah, true.
Jonathan, but we'll see.
Speaking of which, shout out to Patty Harrison, who is so good here. Just very, very funny on so many levels. And we will get to the Intelligencia stuff. Let's go into the B storyline. Let's take a quick break, Shannon, and then we'll jump into the B storyline with Mr. Immortal.
Do 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 bum 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 bum.
Oh, that's good. Yes, the song.
It wasn't that good. He didn't hear it until the end.
So, yeah.
I'm not an Annie Lennox guy. I've heard the song. I can't, you know.
Well, I don't really win score competitions. Well, maybe once I've won one, if I can remember correctly.
Okay.
Let's get into the beat story. Here, Mr. Immortal, aka Craig Hollis, who calls himself Mr. Immortal because it's a pithier. Shout out to David Pasquesi, who's the actor who plays him in the role here. Mallory and Nikki are handling his divorce. We find out that he does not like to tell the women he gets married to that he is divorcing them, so he kills himself or suicides himself to get out of it in interesting and unique ways, for sure. Nikki and Mallory start to hear his story, and they start to ramp up when they're in the office and start to tag team him verbally about what he does, so much so that Mr. Immortal runs and jumps out the window like that meme you've seen. I'm out of here. He jumps out the window, lands on the car, cracks his bones and gets back and gets up and walks away because he cannot be killed or he can't stay dead. What we find out is that someone took a video of that. It ended up on the site called Intelligencia, and that's how one of his former wives saw him and alerted all these other women. So the next cut we go to when we see Mr. Immortal again is him sitting in this room with Nikki and Mallory, and all the women who he has married and men that he has married in the past, had children with, are left high and dry. We hear about Intelligencia, that it's a site for hateful man babies. That's Marvel taking a shot at a lot of the people who run YouTube channels that bash them and call them woke and all that kind of stuff. Immortal pitches using his Apple. After they have the discussion with Nikki and Mallory about what to do here, Mallory proposes some things. And then Mr. Immortal proposes using his Apple stock from 1981 and the gold from Baroness Cromwell split 8 ways. This is fascinating to mention Baroness Cromwell, which might be Baroness Blood from the comics, because her real name is Lily Cromwell, and she joined a group known as Legion of the Unliving, which was led by Dracula. And certainly we're getting Werewolf by Night, we're getting Blade. Can Dracula be that far behind? So, man, we are walking out into so many places, Shannon. It's insane. But the ladies start to battle about why everyone is getting the same amount when some have been married with him longer, some had kids with him. So it's a whole thing. But then we see Nikki working her magic, and she ends up being able to parse out what everyone needs and wants. And Immortal tries to get out of doing the eye contact, which I think is hilarious. And they add 5 extra seconds to it. Later on, Nikki and Mallory are sitting down and having a drink, talking, and in her office, I believe. And I don't know, I may be off base, and some of you might come after me for this, but I got a weird feeling that there's a thing there between them. And, we know that Nikki is or gay, or maybe bisexual, or what have you, or fluid. But Mallory, we find out, is married, been married for 11 years, has a child, but we don't know the status of their marriage. I just got a weird vibe. I may be way off, but I just got a weird little vibe. And it may just be Ginger Gonzalez is so just flirty. It's perfect, But they go to this Intelligencia site. Nikki logs in, sees all these death threats Nikki and Mallory do for She-Hulk and threats of violence, which again mirror what we see on YouTube. You can go find a bunch of YouTube videos bashing She-Hulk and threatening, Marvel and all this kind of stuff, and creating faces and putting lasers in their eyes. But Mallory doesn't want Nikki to tell Jen about this. She says they are trolls. Any attention at all that you give them is what they want. Certainly, we've heard that in real life from a number of things. And then later, of course, Nikki calls because she can't keep this a secret, calls Jen and tells her all about it on voicemail, kind of mirroring Jen calling Bruce and leaving the voicemail. So, Shannon, thoughts on this Mr. Immortal B storyline here, and how Nikki and Mallory kind of had their own storyline to go down here yet again for Nikki, thank God, in this episode.
It's almost like they waited until they needed to do it.
You know what?
I mean, this is 2 in a row. 2 in a row, Johnny. Look at that.
Could have happened in the second episode, in my opinion. But all right, fine.
David Pasquazi, I gotta say, because I was a Veep fan.
Yeah.
Him playing, Selena Meyer's ex-husband. I think he fits into this world so much better than Book of Boba Fett.
Oh my God. Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, he was a great meme. He was
not that his presence in that show is what kind of made it go sideways, but I mean, it didn't like help. But I think he just this character, the MCU version of Mr. Immortal, I think this works really, really well. And the fact that he is so non-confrontational, and that's why he keeps faking his death. And at the end of all the things that he has to, pay for, the one that he bumps up against the most is the 15 seconds of eye contact. Like that is actually his worst nightmare. I thought he was really,
it's interminable, Shannon.
Yeah. Hey, look, man, I've been in a few uncomfortable situations where it's like, all right, now count to 15. It's like, oh, this is going to be terrible.
Yeah, but you're Mr. Immortal. What's 15 seconds? Anyway,
15 seconds of discomfort. He can't do it. I thought the whole storyline was really fun. I think connecting Nikki and Mallory was really smart, and even like getting to the end, seeing how Mallory's just like, no, don't say anything, because in the comics Mallory is a bit of an antagonist to Jennifer Walters, so you kind of see like, oh, is she going to go that way? I mean, again, this is fanboy headcanon,
right.
It's just like, is Josh a good guy or a bad guy? We'll see. But I thought them as a pair work really nicely together. And again, by the end of this season, my thought is that Nikki is probably, she's going to forever be in Jen's circle, but she is going to find the thing that she is supposed to do. And whether or not that remains working, you know, with Jen as a paralegal, or decides to become a lawyer on her own, or has some other path, like I do think they know what they're going to do with Nikki. And like you're seeing how capable she is week after week after week. And she's not just the friend. Like she is coming up with her own stories, which is,
some of us saw
fun.
that from week 1. I'm just putting that out there.
Oh, okay. Oh, really? But you know, I thought the whole play with all the ex-wives and the ex-husband, the fact that he gave him what's it called, a New Orleans funeral,
a New Orleans like jazz funeral.
Yeah. That, I mean, everything about that to me, I mean, it's really fun. It's just it's light and harmless. To what you had said about Nikki and Mallory's potentially amorous connection,
am I off base?
I thought the same thing, because and maybe it's just the fact that, as you said, Ginger Gonzaga is just very, very charming. But I felt like whatever was happening, I felt like there was a degree of reciprocation with Mallory. Now, I can't point to any one thing and say like, yep, she's into her. But it did seem mutually accepted.
It felt like we were one question away or one comment away from the door opening, and there was a way Ginger was holding her glass that made it seem, and look, you know, ladies and gentlemen, before the current iteration of the Outlaw Rogue, I mean, I've had my time flirting, and you can read the signs in certain moments, like, so, you know, I'm not unschooled in this. So to me, it felt like just the way she was holding her glass, the way she was asking the questions, the way she was taking interest in her. And it felt like, and Renee Elise Goldsberry did a great job just kind of maybe hinting at it and then shutting it down immediately. No more questions, you know, no more personal questions, because that's kind of what Mallory is known for. So
no, I don't think you were off. I mean, and again, maybe we are both reading too much into this.
Two dudes reading too much into a woman-to-woman interaction. Very true.
But I mean, the way it was filmed, to me, I'm like, this seems more than friendship. But you know what? We could absolutely be wrong. But you know, again, Nikki, you know, being Jen's ride or die, you know, she is specifically told by her superior, don't do this, and she immediately does it because that's her, you know, that's her girl, that's her friend. Dude. I mean, across the board, I thought the episode was really satisfying, and again. The thing that, I mean, I didn't talk about it the first time, but like the way that they shot Titania taking that punch to the chops.
Oh my God.
And you just see the again, that's like, okay, this is She-Hulk. Like this is silly fun.
Where do you think the Titania She-Hulk thing is going? What would be your guess right now?
I feel like she's going to be a thorn in Jen's side without ever really being our big bad guy. She's more just, she's a pain in the ass. Like
she's going to constantly try it and fail every time. Is what you're saying.
Yeah. But I also could see, depending on who our big bad turns out to be, whatever that storyline, how it ends up playing out, I see a situation where Titania helps She-Hulk out.
I had that feeling too, as I was watching it this time, that it felt like, especially when she said, "You're obsessed with me," there was like this reaction from Titania. I'm not obsessed with you, but everyone else seems to be. There's a jealousy here that isn't born out of evil. There is a desperate desire to be liked from Titania. And just that little character beat, to me, changed my mind completely on where this journey is going to go between the two of them. And I'm in the camp with you. I think she's going to end up being a begrudging ally of She-Hulk as it goes forward, and maybe even help her embrace being She-Hulk even more, and embrace her power and embrace her ability and her look and everything. You know, I mean, she may be the one that helps her essentially get a makeover. And I wonder if that's where we're headed down the road, you know?
Yeah. I mean, if that were to happen, I mean, maybe Jen's other superpower is turning enemies into friends.
Little background real quick from Mr. Immortal. As I mentioned earlier, he's a part of the West Coast Avengers, but he was the leader of the Great Lake Avengers in the comics. He debuted in 1989, created by the legendary John Byrne, and first appeared in West Coast Avengers Volume 2, number 46. Maybe I'm misspeaking. Maybe he wasn't a member of the West Coast Avengers. He was debuted in the West Coast Avengers and then of course, became the leader of the Great Lake Avengers. So we shall see how that turns out. We talked about Baroness Cromwell already, but so let's get to this intelligentsia situation here, Shannon. A little background here. Intelligentsia, in the comics, it was created by Jeff Parker and Paul Pelletier in 2009. And the comics version of Intelligentsia is a group of Marvel's most devious masterminds who meet in an online chat board to talk about, or chat room to talk about what they're going to do, maybe get opinions, advice, or whatever. But one of its members is the leader, who as you mentioned earlier, Tim Blake Nelson played that character of Samuel Stearns in the Incredible Hulk way back in 2008, the Edward Norton one. And he confirmed at D23, as we all know, that he will be returning to the role in Captain America New World Order. So is he the one? And we see the administrator here for the Intelligentsia website, and it is the same Hulk King who shows up with that message on the computer saying, are we ready for the next phase of the plan? So what do you take from this, Shannon? I mean, where do we go with this? What's your feeling about the Intelligentsia? Yes, it's a shot at YouTube and a shot at message boards that are bashing Marvel and bashing female-led shows in the superhero universe, but they might be using it also to kind of maybe add another element of the leader and preview the big bad coming in the next few episodes.
Well, I mean, the thing that the MCU has done incredibly well is taking things that have existed in Marvel Comics and been able to work it into how it would be in the MCU. Like J. Jonah Jameson in the Daily Bugle is a great example of that. Like making him sort of an Alex Jones InfoWars type character. Like that's a stroke of genius, because in the comics he's always been a newsman. He's a newsman, and so the fact that you take a media personality who is so obsessed with one individual the way he is obsessed with Spider-Man and give him more of a conspiracy theory bend, like that's really, really smart. So, I mean, using this thing, like, I love the idea that, like, I'm not a big She-Hulk reader. I was never a big Marvel Comics reader. I was always a DC guy, as you can tell right there. But having a chat room where supervillains hang out and discuss potential plans, and then finding out that the leader is a part of it, for me, like, that totally tracks. It makes sense for me, knowing what type of movie Captain America 4 is potentially going to be. It seems like such a drastic tonal shift to go from Hulk, which was very straightforward, and depending on how you feel about the movie, I mean, it was very much like a phase 1 Marvel movie. To put that same character in She-Hulk, which is so light, after having not seen him for so long, and then his next appearance is going to be in the Cap films, which have traditionally been, especially starting with Winter Soldier, very, very serious. I mean, they do have their moments of levity, but that seems like sort of a whiplash type tonal change to me. Now, I could be wrong, because Wong showed up in Doctor Strange, showed up in Avengers, easily made his way into She-Hulk. And like his last appearance before that was in Multiverse of Madness, which, again, depending on how you feel about the movie, like, they didn't play Wong for laughs. I mean, Wong had humorous moments, but the character was always the character. So maybe they're going to be able to do that with the leader as well. That's possible. And then again, it might not even be him. It could be just John Bass. Like, we'll find out.
Yeah, and Tim Blake Nelson, of course, very adept at playing serious or playing comedic. So he's very good at
wonderful comedic performer.
Yes, wonderful comedic. You guys seen Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, or a number of other films. And he does have a little bit of a weird kind of nerdy comedic bent in the Incredible Hulk movie, if you go back and rewatch it. And I remember last year when we rewatched all the MCU movies up until up until Shang-Chi, the Outlaw and I, on our stereo show, I actually found the Incredible Hulk, I didn't think it was that bad. And I liked what was happening in the movie. Yeah, I mean, are there things you can criticize about it? Sure. But like, I liked overall the movie. I didn't have a bad time watching it. And I liked his performance. And I actually felt afterwards that it was a shame we weren't going to see him become the leader. So now that we're going forward with this, I'm actually pretty excited about it, to see where it's going to lead and what it could be. And you're right. If it pops up here, it doesn't mean that he can't be serious down the road. It's just here it fits within the She-Hulk universe, so it's a bit more comedic, maybe not as heavy. So we shall see. Shannon, any thoughts on some of the complaints that people have been having here about feeling like the stakes aren't quite there in She-Hulk? I mean, the show is unabashedly itself. From I think the 3rd or 4th episode on, it's been very clear it's unabashedly itself. But do you think we're risking stakes here? That the stakes aren't high enough? What do you think?
No, I disagree, because every film, every series can't be about saving the world. And if you look back at the catalog of the MCU, they're not. I mean, literally, like, look back at Iron Man 1. What was Obadiah Stane's plan? I mean, he got into the big suit and it's like, all right, you're going to kill Tony Stark. What do you do next? Like, the cops are probably going to come and get you.
Right.
But it was never about saving the world. Tony's plan was about keeping his technology out of the hands of people who would use it for the wrong purposes.
Yeah, for terrorism.
So, So I mean, I get the critique that it's like, oh, it just seems so low stakes. Everything can't be super high. Like right now, the stakes, like, we don't know what the stakes are yet, because there's still a third of this show, more than a third of this show left to go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but also it's just a different type of show.
Yeah.
So not everyone's going to be Winter Soldier. Not everyone is going to be Endgame. Like, there are going to be different stakes, and this is because of how many comics Marvel Comics publishes at any one time.
Yeah.
There are going to be things that people like, and there's going to be things that people don't like. I mean, again, I think I've said it a couple of times on our reviews in the past. It's like, I doubt there's an individual out there who collects everything and is into everything. Like, just because the MCU is so broad at this point with how many characters they have, how many stories they're telling, there's just going to be stuff that is for some people and isn't for others. So,
yeah. And I would argue, just because something has stakes doesn't mean necessarily it's got the weight that it's supposed to have, even with the stakes. So it doesn't mean that it necessarily accomplishes its task of making you feel those stakes. So that's certainly possible. Yeah. The thing is, I'm in the middle on the show, and I will probably remain in the middle on the show. But there are things that I do enjoy, and that is Tatiana Maslany's performance. Number one, I mean, she felt so fun in this episode. Maybe the most Tatiana Maslany performance yet, as like the blurring the lines between her and Jen Walters. As you mentioned, like, she has a good time at these Comic-Con parties. So seeing some of that bleed through was really great. I mean, I love her in the role. So that always keeps me coming back every week. And RENEE, ELISE, GOLDSBERRY, and as I said earlier, Jen Gonzalez. But you want to see more. Wait, I'm sorry. Gonzaga, is it Gonzalez?
Gonzaga.
Sorry, Gonzaga. Yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, there's enough to enjoy for me. But the things that I don't, it's the humor. And it's ironically, that's the thing that I think would have really made me love it, like, and scream about it from the mountaintops. I'm not finding it as funny as I would like to find it, but I know there are people who do. So I just create the space for that and say, great, glad you like it. I'm hoping for the next thing is going to be a more enjoyable to me, because I actually liked Moon Knight more than you did. So, but I can get it. I get it. I totally get it. Anything else? Any final thoughts on this? I feel like we've covered everything here. Shannon, anything? Oh, the identity thing. Do you feel like they're doing enough of a good job of, like, having these conversations for Jen, even when Titania was telling her, you don't even want to be this. Like, why do you care so much? So do you sense that she's coming closer? I mean, she made a comment to Josh about, hey, wait till you see my Hulk hair, my She-Hulk hair. So clearly she knows her strengths, and she talks about being strong, and she just, I don't know, there seems to be more and more comfortable nature in being She-Hulk. And do you sense that they're doing a nice job of kind of slowly furthering this storyline episode per episode about her deciding which way she wants to go?
Thus far, yeah, because at the beginning, all this thing is something that has inconvenienced her life.
Yes.
Like, she liked the way things were. This is a wrench in her plans. And now she's starting to see the benefits of it.
Yeah.
And so you wonder, like obviously we're working our way into her being a hero.
Right.
Like, she'll never not be a lawyer, but at this point, like, she has no intention of putting on a suit and trying to go join the Avengers. Like, she's like, this is something that's a part of me, but who I am, I'm a lawyer. So we're getting to the point where she is going to accept that and embrace it. I mean, you see her embracing aspects of it.
Yeah.
The positives of it. But we will get to the part. I think they're doing a good job at laying out right now.
And just like anything, right? It takes time for you to come to terms with something in your life. And certainly she had this cockiness coming out of that Hulk Island, and Bruce told her, you don't understand what you're getting into. She thought she could handle it. And clearly, you know, she's being shown that there's a lot more to this than she might have anticipated. And it's coming to bear episode per episode for sure. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us for this episode of She-Hulk, episode 6, Just Jen, the spoiler review. We appreciate it here on the Geek Buddies. Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at @geek_buddies, on Instagram at @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung, on Instagram at Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you would like to follow Mr. Vogel and let him know how much you missed him this week, you can follow him at MGayTune. Or if you just want to tell John how much you appreciate him for being here all the time, you can follow him at The Rocha Says.
There you go. I did miss a week for COVID, but yes, other than that, you could let me know for that. Would appreciate that. Yeah, and please remember to subscribe to the channel down below. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell button. You know, we're trying to get to 25,000 subscribers, so come aboard the Geek Buddies train, the Outlaw Nation train. We would appreciate it madly. Hit that bell button so you see when we're dropping all the content we do. Now that we're back to churning out the content like we were before COVID, we're back to churning it out and numbers like that. So please do that as well. And if you listen to us, remember our podcast feed is out there wherever you download podcasts. Go and download and subscribe to the Geek Buddies. Leave us a rating, leave us some comments there, leave us a positive review. And even if you haven't done one in a long time, go and do one again. Get us up in those numbers so they can be ranked there amongst the film and TV podcasts wherever you download podcasts. We would appreciate it madly. And big shout out to carbonhealth.com. They power and sponsor us here on the Geek Buddies and the Outlaw Nation. Go to carbonhealth.com. Go get checked out. Find out where your nearest clinic is. They've got 100 plus locations all over California, all over the country, rather, 80 plus locations all over California. They believe in creating healthcare plan just for you. Download the app as well so you can have a doc in your pocket. And they believe in supporting and uplifting communities just like ours that have positive conversations about superhero stuff, about communal things that we enjoy. So go and support them today and tell them the Geek Buddies sent you for sure. All right, y'all take care of yourselves. Be well, and we'll talk to you next time with another brand new spoiler review episode of She-Hulk here on the
Geek Buddies.